Welcome back to the Freely Roaming Podcast with Mish. This is episode number 18.
And I'm Marlene, and you're Dan, in case it's the first time somebody's listening.
That's right. I am Dan. She's correct. If you're listening to our podcast for the first time, welcome. If you are a return listener, thank you for supporting our podcast. So this is our first episode of 2021. Mm-hmm. And it is our fifth episode since we switched over from the previous name, which was the Mish podcast. The Freely Roaming project is something we started at the beginning of 2020 or maybe towards the end of 2019. Mm-hmm. The goal was to provide another avenue for us to give you guys sort of ideas and how-tos and educational content on how to live on the road, how to live a modern nomadic life. Before that, our podcast was mostly about our actual day-to-day lives on the road, sort of recaps of countries that we've been and places that we visited. And we'll still sprinkle some of that in here in this podcast.
Because it is our experience, and we'll be talking about places we travel as a family.
It's applicable, right? So if you're interested in traveling through Ireland or Scotland or something like that, you know, hopefully we'll be going to places to the UK this summer, maybe this fall, later this year when it's open again. And we'll share those types of travels, so personal experiences as well as maybe tips and tricks. So last year we only did 4 episodes of this podcast, and this year we're planning to do more. We have big plans, as always, but how we follow through, you know, time will tell. We did have plans for 2020. We're going to talk about it in our first segment, and the way that we're structuring this podcast, these podcast episodes, is that they're going to be segmented into 4 or 5 topics, and then we'll dive about 10 to 12, 15 minutes into each one. Mm-hmm. And then each one of these will be subdivided into individual videos that'll go up on our youtube.com/freely roaming channel as standalone videos. So if you want to just see individual topics, you can find out what they are by going to our YouTube channel and subscribing. There's also going to be a main YouTube channel that's for this podcast, and they'll have the entire episode, hour-ish long episode, on as one video. So if you want to just put it on, put it in the background while you're working or doing work or whatever, you can do that. And obviously this will also be live on our podcast website, which is freelyroaming.com/podcast. So episode number 18, our first topic. We're going to run through the entire list of what we'll talk about so you guys have an idea. The first one is going to be our 2020 year in review. We obviously have had a slightly different year than usual, like all of you guys. And this year, hopefully will be different, but we'll spend the first segment talking about things that happened to us personally in our travels, and also just things that happened to this Freely Roaming project. So we'll go through that. And then the second one.
The second one, we will talk about our suspension issues and upgrades that we had to deal with a few months ago.
Yeah, when we came back to Croatia after we traveled through Morocco, we found out that we had a crack in our suspension. So since we didn't travel for about 2/3 of this year, it was a good opportunity for us to do a lot of work to the van. So suspension upgrade was one of them. It's something probably that I should have done, but we'll talk about that. And then the other 3 topics we'll talk about has to do with questions that people have asked over and over again. We have blog posts on some of this at freelyroaming.com/blog. We've also asked people to ask us questions on our Instagram stories. Yeah. So these are ones that people have asked before.
Yeah, and they're repeat questions. So they deserve their own videos. So the third one we're going to talk about is how to shower on the road. So there's different methods that we do that. The fourth one is how we do laundry on the road. And that is, we'll get into that, depends on where we are and weather and things like that. And the fifth one is the toilet.
It's a very sanitation-centric episode.
It is. How to clean yourself,
How to clean your clothes.
And how
to clean your insides.
Release
and clean your insides. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into our first topic. "2020, as all of you guys know, is a different year, and especially for us too. Is we have been traveling since 2008 full time, and for the last 10 months or so, we've been more or less stationary, which is something that's really new for us. But we took that opportunity into sort of building this channel and also making some upgrades on our van. So, we want to share some of that with you guys, and also share with you guys the things that happened to us personally as well. We started this channel, I think, in the end of November or beginning of December in 2019.
Right.
The content that we've been putting on youtube.com/MollyMish has been mostly our travel vlogs, places that we've been, things that we're experiencing, sort of a first person or, an outside view for you guys to see what life on the road is like, traveling internationally with a family of 5. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of topics that we want to share that has to do with sort of how to do some of these things. So we started Freely Roaming as a way to show you guys a more focused way to show you guys, sort of how to live this life. So our initial goal for 2020 was to make 100 videos, which is a pretty ambitious goal. And if you break that down, that's 2 videos a week, and that's a lot of work. We didn't really quite have a good idea about how we wanted to approach these videos, like how polished they would be, if it's just going to be me talking for 2 minutes and uploading one video. But I think it turned out to be a little bit more ambitious. Like each episode, I wanted to provide more helpful information. So to give you guys an idea about how we did, in 2020, we uploaded 48 videos to the Freely Roaming channel.
Not bad.
Pretty good. We're about a little less than halfway short of our goal, but we also uploaded 50 more videos on our Molly Mish channel. So we did produce 100 videos for the year. It's just not all on Freely Roaming. So I think that's actually a pretty good pace. I don't think producing 100 videos for Freely Roaming is sustainable, especially for traveling.
No, and it'll take away your time from producing our family memories on the Molly Mish channel, which we don't want to ignore either.
Exactly. We want to make sure that we have time for both. So I think this last year was a good split between the two. We started out the year with just a few subscribers. Since we had just started, we only had maybe 3 or 4 videos. And just as of 2 days ago, at the end of January, we reached over 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Thanks to all you guys for supporting our channel and everything that you guys have done for us. A big majority of that came from these last series of videos that I've been making since I think maybe middle of November. We were in Croatia, and I took it as an opportunity to do some upgrades. So one of the upgrades I wanted to do was to switch from our AGM batteries to lithium, because I noticed that lithium batteries had gone down a lot in price, especially the DIY type. So a lot of people have been talking about, hey, DIY lithium batteries, how does it work? And that was going to be my approach. So I had ordered some parts. I waited for them to all show up throughout the year. It took months, literally, to get here to Croatia from China. Not only is it because it's slow shipping, it's also Croatia has difficult customs clearing rules. And as of 2021, I think the custom fees went up, import tariffs went up. So I wanted to kind of get these orders in for the year. And since then, I've been sharing with you guys the entire build and how things work and sort of the process and the progress and the upgrades that we've done. And the response has been really overwhelming. So I want to thank you guys for all of that. I mean, I think a vast majority of you guys watching these videos that are subscribers now are here because of those lithium videos. So I'm going to continue to give you guys updates and show you guys how the batteries are working practically when we're on the road, hopefully in a few months from now. But also, we're going to also continue to share with you guys the other types of content that's related to international nomadic traveling. So stay tuned for that. And, we're really thrilled to have all of you guys joining us. And especially for those of you that are supporting us on Patreon. That's really, really great. Thank you guys for that.
Yeah, super awesome.
And we're also doing a podcast, which is, this is part of an episode. This is episode number 18 of this podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, go to freelyroaming.com/podcast. You can subscribe to our podcast using any of your favorite podcast listening program. Let's talk about our goals for 2021. Like, what do we plan to do for 2021?
Not 100 videos. That was a little too much.
No, not too much. We're not going to be that ambitious. We think this past year was a good sort of measuring stick for how much we can take on content-wise. But you never know. Our goal is set so that they're realistic, that they're achievable. And now that we know what we can do, we're going to try to do them. And there may be changes along the way, as there always are in a lifestyle like this. So yeah, just stay tuned, and we'll update you guys as we go along the way. And we do want to kind of set a goal for us, though. When we started this channel at the beginning of 2020. We just wanted our first year to get to the point that we can have this channel monetized, which is 1,000 subscribers and I think 4,000 watch hours. And we were able to reach that at the end of the year because of the most recent growth that we've had on this channel. So for this next year, or I guess this current year that we're in, we have 11 months left. We want to try to get to 25,000 subscribers. So if you guys know people that would be interested, please share with them our channel. Let them know the kind of stuff that we're sharing here with you guys. If you guys are interested with the content, and also just by giving us a thumbs up, that's really going to help us with the algorithm. And for 2021, our goal, like I said once again, is to do 50 more videos. We're going to be, unlike the last 10 or so videos, we're going to go back to having a more diversified selection of topics that revolves all around living off-grid, living nomadic, and just traveling, living mobily around the world.
People are probably wondering, with all your battery builds, like, who's this person next to Dan, and why are they in a van? Because usually you're like by the stone house. It's true. Depending on what videos you've seen, you may not know why I'm suddenly in a van. Well, maybe you do. If you watch a few of my videos, you'll know that the battery we built was for our camper van, which is normally what we live in. And the stone house is the place that we're staying at during the pandemic. It's Marlene's father's childhood home on the island of Hvar in Croatia. So we've been here since beginning of April. But then we left. We spent a good amount of time in Split as well, and then now we came back in October, and we've been here basically since October, non-stop ever since. In 2020, after we came back from Africa back into Europe during the pandemic, when we were back in Croatia, another traveler friend of ours had told us they have the exact same van as ours, basically same year, same model, 4x4, and they have the same air suspension installed in their van. And they were going to come through Croatia, so they reached out to us and actually asked us about a welding shop, if we knew about somebody who could do welding. So we asked them a little bit deeper about what it was for, why they needed, and it turns out their air suspension has caused the crack at the top of where it's bolted to the unibody chassis of their Sprinter. On both sides.
On both sides. Yeah, exactly. So they were identical on both sides. And that got us a little bit worried because we have the exact same van and we also have that exact same suspension. And I'll put the link to the actual part down below for you guys. So when they told us that they had this happen to them, we crawled under our van and we noticed the exact same cracks. So that was a little disconcerting. And what we realized what we had to do is that we had to find a place to get this fixed right away by reinforcing with metal plates and welding it back up. Mm-hmm. But also we had to support the suspension, support the weight of the van, not just using these air suspensions, that we had to use actual leaf springs.
That was a trouble. We used one instead of a combination of both.
Yeah, so we've had airbags in all of our campers that we had before. We had a GMC Savannah van, which is like a Chevy Express that we were towing an Airstream with. We had airbags in that. We actually had 2 sets of airbags. First set, we used them for a long time, and then they eventually broke.
Yeah.
So then I had to replace it with the exact same ones. And then we had a Ford F-250 diesel. We also had airbags installed, and then we had another Ford F-250 long bed gas that we also had airbags installed in that as well. What my experience with airbags in body on frame trucks like that, and the GMC Savannah van was also a body on frame truck chassis, is that it's perfect, assuming that you do the regular maintenance to these airbags. But Mercedes Sprinter being a unibody chassis, the frame rails, there are actual sort of frame rails underneath where the suspension is bolted to. They're only reinforced at the ends where the suspension sort of eyes are bolted to the frame. So in the middle, you have a factory bump stop. That's like basically just a piece of, heavy duty rubber that prevents the suspension from bottoming out when you hit something too hard. And this air suspension that I installed goes right on the same mounting point as the bump stop. But the problem with ours, I think, is that we're not too heavily overweight. But I think what happened is that we added a 1-inch spacer, which it goes in between the leaf spring and the frame rail, which pushes the leaf springs further down to give us more height. But what that also did is that it put more pressure on the frame rails. So that may not have been ideal.
So a single point, right? Pressure.
1 point on each side.
Yeah.
Right. And there's also kind of a weak point where there's a weld. So it cracked right there. And we don't know how long it was cracked. By the time we looked down there, it didn't seem like there was any rust built around it or anything. But there's like this really thick, like rubbery under coating on the bottom of the van anyway, so you can't really tell how rusty it is.
I mean, we went on a lot of bad roads in Morocco and Africa.
And Greece.
Yeah. And how many miles do we have on this van?
We're almost up to our Service B. So what is that? 40,000? About 40,000 miles. So it's not a lot of miles, but some of the miles are pretty heavy miles. So we don't know exactly when it happened. It could have happened within the first week of us installing these springs, or it could have happened last year in Morocco.
And when did we install and get the van?
We installed it right away after we bought the van. It's one of the first things that we did. Yeah, so we've had these air springs in there for a while. So what we ended up doing is we had to find somebody in Croatia to help us weld the frame back up. And that was pretty difficult to do. Mm-hmm. And, RVs like this or camper vans like this are not popular in Croatia. Like RVing and traveling by camper van is more of a Western Europe thing. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of Eastern Europe, they come from sort of the socialist, communist, era that ended for the most part, like in the 90s. So people didn't have a lot of money. So this is considered kind of a luxury. And also people used to live in sort of, tougher situations. And to say that you're going to live in a car is like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And that's what poor people do when they travel. But, which is obviously not the case anymore. People are sort of traveling like we do as a luxury by choice. So we had trouble trying to find somebody who would work on this frame crack. But eventually we found somebody, and it was sort of a weird situation. We had this guy who works as like some kind of mechanic for the Croatian military during the day, and he has like a repair shop at his house where he and his dad does some repair work. So he's willing to do the work for us. He came in the middle of the night to where our van is parked to look at it, to give us a quote. He wasn't willing to commit to a quote right away. And then we took the van over there and we said, okay, we want to see how you do this welding because it's really important that it's done right. And he's like, okay. You know, he had a lot of, like, he said a lot of things that made it sound like that he was the right person to go to. Mm-hmm. Which I'm not saying that he didn't do a good job necessarily, but he didn't do a lot of the things that we asked him to do, which is, you know, weld in a specific way that I know will be stronger. And also, like, not paint over what he finished so that we can see what his welds look like before he covered it up. So all of these things happened, and we weren't too happy about, you know, him not listening to these simple things. So we weren't sure whether or not it was strong enough. But I think it turned out to be okay. But what we had to do to really feel comfortable with the van after the crack was repaired was to add a additional leaf spring to our rear suspension so that the weight was no longer completely supported, you know, just at this single point on each side using these air suspensions. Mm. So we had some trouble finding that too. So we found
where we ordered it from somewhere.
We found a suspension leaf spring shop in the UK.
Oh, good thing it was before Brexit.
Pre-Brexit. Technically post-Brexit, but it was pre the final day, which is at the end of December 2020. Mm-hmm. So we had stuff shipped from the UK. We had these big, beefy, extra leaves sent from the UK shipped to us. And we have a friend in Croatia who owns Croatia Campers. They have these big parking spaces at their depot. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a bus depot for the city. That you rent some space where he keeps his camper vans. And, you know, because we don't have a place to do this work. All the places that we park the van is either like in the village on a super slanted, you know, rough road, or on the side of the road when we're in Split. So our friends from Croatia Campers let us use their covered parking space to do the work. So I was able to take the springs and relatively easily, you know, using just bottle jacks and just, you know, regular tools that we carry, add a leaf to our rear suspensions. So,
and I think you wanted also to be in the city because you actually needed to buy a new thing, and we wanted to be near shops to buy stuff if we needed it.
Yeah, because when our van is up on jacks, we don't have a way of driving anywhere. And because it was during the pandemic, we didn't want to have to take public transportation if we had a choice. So we actually broke our factory bottle jack halfway through the upgrade, and I had to walk from where we were all the way to the big box hardware store to buy another bottle jack, which worked out. You know, we were able to do this in pretty much one afternoon. So now we have a beefy suspension that this van is originally rated for 3.5 tons, and now with the inclusion of that new leaf spring, it's technically able to handle 5 tons now, even though it's still rated the same. We didn't get the van re-rated. So now I'm much happier with the suspension. So for those of you that are considering suspension upgrades for your van, for your Sprinter van or any unibody van specifically, look into this a little bit more. Consider that you probably want to have leaf springs, actual leaf springs added to your rear suspension than just relying solely on airbags.
Well, we put those airbags back in, but without the spacer. Because
the airbags are no longer supporting as much weight as it was before. It's sort of what they're designed to do now. So now they're just acting as heavy-duty bump stops. We want to talk to you guys today about all the different ways that we shower on the road. A lot of people have asked us about just exactly how we do it, being that it's kind of a small van that we have, and there are 5 of us, and we don't really carry that much water.
And we don't have, as you can probably see behind us, we don't have
a built-in shower.
Bathroom.
Yeah, we don't have a built-in bathroom. So this is something that we've been figuring out for the entire time that we've been traveling. Even though our first camper, our 25-foot Airstream that we used to travel in had a shower, and we would shower in it, but it was never the ideal place to take a shower, because even when you do have the space, you don't really have a full-size shower, and you don't have as much water as you would want if you travel like we do, which is mostly off-grid. So other ways to shower has always been ideal for us, whether that be, being at campgrounds or paying for showers specifically at certain places. So in this video, we want to tell you guys all the different ways that we shower. We have a blog post on this topic as well. We'll put the link of that in the description below.
So we're going to break up this video into 3 different types of showers that we take. We do a paid shower, we do free showers, and we do showers in our actual camper.
So the paid options obviously include us going to a campground that has a shower. Mm-hmm. So by going to a campground, one of the biggest reasons why we do go to a campground is either we need to plug into electricity. Mm-hmm. For example, if it's in the wintertime when it's really cold, we're not getting that much solar, if we need to fill up water, or if we need to shower. So having a really good warm shower is a pretty high priority for us, because if we're going to spend the money to stay at a campground, we don't just need a place to sleep, because we can find places to sleep in many, many other places. We need these reasons to be one of the top priorities. So campground showers, generally speaking, they are less than stellar, because when you go to a campground, people usually go to campgrounds for all the camping facilities. Electricity, water, shower, kitchen, sometimes swimming pools, sometimes it's the location that it's at. Campfire rings, yeah. So showering is just one of the many. So they kind of all have to be relatively up to par. So not all of them is going to be really, really stellar. Generally speaking, there are obviously some that have really great showers and very great facilities, and those are probably some of the more popular ones. But what we found is that campground showers, they are often sort of neglected if it's an older campground. If it's a state park or county park, unless it's just been renovated, they can be pretty scary. We've been in campgrounds where there are more spiders and bugs and creatures in the stalls than there are seemingly in the entire state that we're in.
But I think what's scarier than bugs is like hairballs, and it's just like sitting there. It's like, oh.
They don't really get cleaned that well, depending on who's doing the cleaning and how much you're paying for these campgrounds. And when we go to these sort of smaller countries that don't have as much infrastructure, your standards are going to have to kind of vary. You're going to have to set your expectations right.
Don't be a glamper.
Yeah. So keep in mind that, when you're paying for a campground, you're not just paying for the shower. Obviously, for us, that's one of our big priorities. But there are other places where you can pay for showers as well. We've camped at marinas. Marinas are, generally speaking, not campgrounds. Not all of them will have places for you that will allow you to stay overnight, but some of them will. So the cool thing about marinas is that they're generally at a pretty popular place in the town. There's going to be restaurants, shops, and places to walk to. And obviously, you're going to have to be by the water if you're at a marina. So we've stayed at marinas in Spain. We've stayed at marinas in Greece. We stayed at marinas in the U.S., various places. And they have bathrooms and showers for the liveaboard people that live in those marinas. So generally speaking, if they have camping facilities, they're going to allow you to use their showers as well. Some of the other places that we've used before, a lot of people have used gym memberships. 24-hour fitness or Anytime Fitness, LA Fitness,
Planet
Fitness. A lot of these places, during the pandemic is a little bit tricky because I think a lot of gyms have to shut down, or they have to limit how many people are allowed to be in there.
Or you can only go to your local one.
Right, so you can't travel as freely as you were able to before, and by not letting non-local members use their facilities, they can sort of cut back on how many people are in there because they are going to be limited. So fitness centers, gym memberships are a good one for a lot of people. Not so much for us, because generally speaking, kids are not allowed in these gym showers. So if you're just a single person or a couple, that might be a great choice for you. But for us, we tend not to use very many gyms to do our shower. But what we will do is a lot of cities and counties will have rec centers. Mm-hmm. And these rec centers, we've seen a lot of them in states like Colorado, Wyoming. Generally, a lot of these sort of very outdoorsy, Oregon, Washington, outdoorsy states out west, they'll have like swimming pools and tennis courts and weight rooms, and they are full-on gyms. And some of the bigger ones have like baseball fields and soccer fields and stuff like that. So those can be really good too. You won't be able to spend the night there, but for us it's great because our kids are always looking for places to go swim. And usually when we find a rec center, we find a place that we can go swim, and after we go swim, then we all shower.
Yeah.
And they can be really inexpensive too. So for like a family to go into a gym for a whole day or to a rec center for a whole day, they range anywhere between like $15 to $25. Yeah. About what you would pay for like a cheap campground. And the showers there are usually much cleaner and better kept than a campground. But for the most part, they're sort of your typical gym showers where you may not get your own individual stall.
Yeah, you never know. It's always a surprise.
So rec centers, that's something that we use as well. Yeah. And sometimes if you stay at a place for an extended period of time, you can pay for a whole month. If you pay for a whole month for a whole family, that could be really cheap. We paid as little as like $30 for a family for either a week or a couple weeks at a time. So that means you can go swim there every day or every other day and then shower after that, or just go hang out. And those are also good places to be able to bring your computer there. Generally, there's a place for you to sit down and plug in and do some
Wi-Fi.
Work. And free Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And in the summertime, you have community pools. And same thing, the shower is kind of like after pool deal, even but you still get to soap up and get warm water.
Even in Germany, we went to a couple of community pools that were pretty inexpensive. So so rec centers, community pools, those are great ones. And then couple other places that we've done truck stops. We didn't do truck stops for a long time, mostly because we were not really comfortable with the idea of like weird. These truckers that go in there. You have this picture of like these greasy trucker guys with big beards, but obviously those are just the things that you see them in the movies. Turns out truck stop showers are really nice,
especially for families, because you get a whole room. And you're not paying per person, so we don't have to worry about paying 5 times whatever the rate is.
You basically get a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
If they even, monitor how long you're in there. But generally speaking, you get at least 30 minutes to be in this stall. And it's a full bathroom. It's a toilet, sink, shower, stall. And they even give you fresh, warm towels and shampoo.
And they clean
soap.
In between each time.
Yeah, so like I was saying, between the campground, where shower is just one of the many facilities that you're paying for, at a truck stop, you're paying $12 to $15 just for the shower. So that has to be much, much higher quality shower experience than you would at a campground, where it's sort of like a secondary benefit. So truck stop have been, something that we've used regularly when we're in the U.S. In Europe, we've only used kind of a truck stop, but it really was just a gas station.
Yeah, like in Norway.
Or in Serbia. I think we took a shower in Serbia.
Yeah, a free one. It was a surprise.
It was free, but the cleaning lady was there, and she says we had to pay her.
We gave her a tip.
We gave her a tip.
Cleaning up after.
But it was still really cheap. So it's not just the U.S. The U.S. is more standardized when it comes to sort of the truck stop situations. But in Europe, the country that you're in can vary, but we have done it here as well. And then lastly, we've used Airbnbs. We've paid for Airbnbs just to take showers.
For day use.
Pretty much for day use, because as a family of 5, it can be pretty expensive to find a place for us to stay at for a family of 5. There's like 2 people, 4 people, and then when you go to like 4 and up, then they expect you to have more more rooms, and they're going to charge you a lot more.
Like party house.
Yeah, for some reason, right? The whole society is built with even numbers and not odd numbers. So what we've done is that we'll go and find Airbnbs that are for the really small ones, because it doesn't matter what size the Airbnb is, they'll have a shower, and some of them have washer dryers too. So we'll just ask up front, hey, look, we're not going to spend a night, but there are 5 of us, and we just want to come and take showers. Will you let us book? Because you don't want to book pretending that you're just one person and then and have 5 people show up. They won't like that. And a lot of the times they are watching. Either the owner lives on site, or they have a manager that's near that can check on the place.
There's a camera outside.
Or there's a camera outside that see you go in and out. So you want to tell them up front, and generally speaking, they'll be totally cool with it, because you know what? If you're just using the shower, it's a lot less work for them to do to have to clean up after you. You're not going to use their bedding or their kitchen or anything like that.
And a lot of times, like when we're in Europe, campgrounds are expensive for a family because they charge per vehicle. It includes a couple, and then they charge extra per kid. And it can add up to like $50 or $60 a night, which is ridiculous. And Airbnbs can be like $20 a night. So much cheaper.
Everything's a la carte when it comes to campgrounds.
Yeah.
So in places where free camping is widely available, we still will use an Airbnb just for a single day, like once a week if we need to. Otherwise, we'll use our other free options. So we'll talk about free options next. Obviously, when you're boondocking, you may not be near a city. You may not be near places where, you can book an Airbnb, or there's going to be a gym or a rec center. So oftentimes, if we're camping next to a body of fresh water, using a lake or a stream or a river, that could be a great place to shower. Obviously, we don't soap up, when we're there. What we may do is we may use sort of these more natural soaps and just kind of lightly soap up when you're outside, and then rinse off and let sort of the ground filter out some of the soapy stuff before it goes back into the water source. But you'll be surprised how well you can clean even just in salt water. You can go for a swim in salt water, and then all you have to do when you come back out is use your fresh water that you have in your camper with you and just kind of do a quick rinse off. And that can be really refreshing too, even, without just having access to fresh water. And then obviously if you're at the beach, a lot of the beaches have free beach showers for people that are sunbathing or surfing or whatever. So a lot of those can be really good resources too, and those are all free. And then lastly, we'll talk about the showers that we have available to us just on board our camper, even though we don't have a dedicated shower.
Okay, so we can talk about how we shower in the camper, and it's what we can do indoors and outdoors, like around the camper. So, like in the past, we had indoor showers when we had our Airstream. We had a separate shower stall from our bathroom, and like Dan said earlier, we didn't use it as often, but it was really great when the kids were little, because there's a little bit of a lip and I can fill it up and they can kind of play in their bathtub.
When they're really little.
when they're really
like
little.
Less than 3.
Right.
4, maybe 4.
But we had newborns and toddlers when we started this lifestyle.
Yeah, we left we moved out of the Airstream into smaller campers in 2015, which means 6 years ago. That means Luca was about 3 when we moved out of there. So we've had even Luca take a bath in the sink. We had a pretty big kitchen sink. And we'll fill up a little bit of water and washed him in there. But yeah, so having a built-in shower in your camper is a nice thing to have, but it does take up a lot of room. So when we downsized to smaller campers, with 5 people, that was the first thing to go. It didn't make sense to have a dedicated space for a shower, and especially for the latter few years of our life in the Airstream, it just became a place where we stored like brooms and paper towels, pack and plays,
beer,
and kids' toys, because we had 3 kids, and
it's like the junk closet.
Yeah, so we realized once they got older, they didn't need this pack and play or these little toys anymore. That we just didn't need a shower anymore.
So when we downsized to the 4-wheel camper, that's when we had our first external shower I think it was, we didn't have warm water.
No, we didn't have a water heater.
So it was very specific to the situation. Like if the weather's nice and we're at a beach and water can spill next to us, then it's fine to use. And some people have heated ones. Like our Airstream actually had a heated outdoor one.
Yeah, and you can buy sort of on-demand hot water heaters that just plug into a small propane bottle. That doesn't take a lot of space. Maybe they're like maybe 1.5 feet and tall and wide and maybe a few inches deep. And you can get hot water as long as you got sort of some way to pressurize a water line into this instant hot water heater run by propane. But again, that takes up a lot of space and uses propane, which can be difficult to find. You can also use ways to heat up water, and then, for example, what we've done is we'll do bucket showers. Mm-hmm. With bucket showers, if you want it to be hot, you just simply boil some water on your stove, and then you mix boiling hot water with half cold water, and then you sort of set it up to your preference, and you can have perfectly temperature water to your liking, and you just either use a cup, wet yourself, shower up, lather up, and then however much water you need, however much water you want, you can heat up as much as you want, or as little as you want. So bucket showers can be a really nice thing too, because that means you can do it anywhere. We've done it outside. We've done it behind the van where we're set up some kind of a curtain between the back doors. Mm-hmm. We've actually done it inside here as well.
When we're in Morocco and we're desperate for a shower during lockdown.
Yeah, so we'll take one of our Rubbermaid bins, we'll put it on the floor, and then we hung up curtain all the way around us and tucked the curtain into the bin, and then we'll just pour hot water over our head and shower while we're just standing right here in the middle of the van. So that worked in a pinch. So you don't have to have a shower dedicated. And there have been really cool sort of temporary showers that people have built inside their vans. They'll just do like a shower pan somewhere, and then they'll sort of jerry rig up a shower curtain similar to what we did here, and not have a dedicated shower. So those are all good things, especially if you're going to build your own van. You can consider all these different options.
So sometimes instead of a bucket shower, we do water bottle showers. So it's the same idea where we warm up water on the stovetop, or sometimes one time where were we?
Romania,
we ate at a restaurant and we brought empty water bottles in our backpack. And before we left, we used their restroom. We filled hot water in the bathroom sink and then put it back in our backpack and then left to take a shower.
Well, we were camping in a parking lot just around the corner from this place, and we had eaten at this place 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's how we knew that they have hot water. The hot water spigot is functioning in their bathrooms. So before we went there, we put empty water bottles in our backpacks. We had maybe like 3 each in our backpack. And then as we were eating, before we left, we took turns to go to the bathroom to fill up hot water. Yeah. So that, you didn't have to do that. You could just heat up your own water. But also this was a way for us to just not have to use up our propane.
It was awesome and embarrassing at the same time, but it worked out. So we take water bottles, and depending on the situation, sometimes we'll open up our back doors of our van, and if it's dark and there's nobody around, we'll put on our bathing suits, and we'll go in the back and we'll use one water bottle to wet ourselves, soap up, and then use the second one, to rinse everything off, and we have our towels, and then we come over here and kind of change and hang our bathing suits up, so that works.
You can even buy these special screw-on like shower heads that go on bottles. I've seen those on Amazon. I'll try to find them and put them in the description below. They'll restrict how much water flows out, so you can have a longer shower with the same amount of water, or you can just use the water bottle itself. But if you just upend the bottle on you, it'll empty itself out in a matter of seconds. So you do have to sort of be mindful of how much water you think you're going to use. We've gotten to the point where we can each shower using the water bottle method with about less than a gallon each, maybe half a gallon each.
Yeah. So if we're in a place where we can refill water, there's a spigot, then it's a choice that we choose. Like, it's kind of weird to say. Like why pay for a campground or an Airbnb when we have a spigot of water and we can warm it up, and we have privacy? We can just do a quick little shower. it all depends on the situation. Like if the weather's crappy or, you know, or if it's super sunny or you have access to water, you'll shower, you know, depending on your situation. So it's not like, okay, we do water bottle every Tuesday. Well, sometimes we can't do that.
No.
You know, it just depends
sometimes we're low on water and we don't want to waste it.
Yeah, so it really depends on the situation.
Yeah. So having all these options available to you is the key here. To be able to be flexible, to say, hey, you know what, we're going to do a beach shower if we can find a beach shower. We're going to go to an Airbnb if we're near a city. We're going to maybe just go to a campground if we need to fill up water and charge our batteries if it's a rainy few days anyways. So having all these options available to you is the key. And also, you know, sometimes you'll be surprised how much better you feel just with a couple of wet wipes.
Yeah, and that's what we do sometimes.
Yeah.
We have like regular baby wipes. I use a natural one because it doesn't seem like it leaves like perfume or like a film on you. And they even make these like big ones, like shower wipes.
Do we have them here?
I think we call it Epic wipes that we use. I don't know if we still have it up here. Have it here. And sometimes if you need a little bit more privacy for a water bottle shower or even a wet wipe shower, you can go into changing rooms like at the beach too and take your water bottles there or your wet wipes, and then you can get naked and clean yourself.
We have these huge, massive wipes. Well, focus. These are called Epic wipes. They didn't pay us to show you these. But these are really cool. These are giant wipes. It does seem kind of wasteful though, because I think these are obviously a lot more expensive than your normal wipes. But they're literally called shower on the go. Important thing is if you're doing a wet wipe shower in a public bathroom or in any bathroom, don't flush the wet wipes. They're not flushable. They have to go in the trash.
Okay, so other ways we shower in here. We have a aluminum
road shower.
Yeah, we have a road shower, which is a aluminum black tube that gets heated up by the sun, and also depending on the situation, we can use that for showering.
Yeah, if you want water pressure, if you just hook up the city water to fill it, as it gets filled from city water, the pressurized city water will pressurize the tube, and then when you turn on the road shower for the water to come back out, it will come out pressurized. But not all of it will come out. Our road shower is a 7-gallon model. So it's surprisingly goes faster than you think it will, even though the thing looks pretty big on the outside. So 7 gallons, and what we notice is when using a road shower like that outside, you're much less conservative with water than if you're doing like a water bottle shower or a bucket shower. Because you can literally see how much water is going down in your bottle or in a bucket. Versus a road shower, you can't really tell how much is left. Yeah. And by the time you realize you're low, it's too late. You know, it takes a decent amount of effort to refill it and heat it back up. So I would say the road shower is a nice thing to have, but it's not. I would not depend on something like that as your only primary way to shower. It's another nice thing for us to have that though, because it is an extra 7 gallons of food safe water storage for us. So if we know that we're going to be somewhere without access to water for a long time, we'll fill up all of our water jugs, which will have 3 of them, 7 gallons each, and then the 7-gallon road shower, which gives us 28 gallons of total fresh water that we can carry. And similar idea as the road shower is just a shower bag, a solar shower bag. Yeah. So you can buy these for like $10 at Walmart. You fill up 5 gallons of water, you hang it up on the sunny side of your van for an afternoon, and before the sun goes down, you've got warm water, and you just shower. We were at a campground in the mountains, inland Croatia, where that's what the campground used. They just used a solar shower, and then she fills it up every day. Yeah. Let the sun heat it up, and we stayed there for a couple of weeks, taking showers like that.
There were some cold ones.
Yeah. The thing about these solar heated showers is that you have to shower not too long, either before the sun goes down or not too long after the sun goes down, because they will cool quickly.
Or if you overfill it, you have to really time it.
Or you can heat up some water and pour it in there as well. One of the things that we're going to do an upgrade on here is I have a 12-volt, 300-watt heating element on order. So instead of using my propane to heat water and pouring it into our bucket, I want to be able to heat up water directly using our excess solar power in the summertime, because we're going to generate more power than we can use in the summertime. So using a DC water heating element is going to let me sort of take more advantage of the solar. That rather than using propane to heat the water, I'm going to be able to use the solar that just going to waste anyways. So stay tuned for that video to come up in the next couple of months. Today, we're going to show you guys all the different ways that we do laundry on the road. Mm-hmm. We don't have a washer dryer like some fancy Class A or a fifth wheels might have. Actually, we have 2 washers, 4 washers.
Where's your dryer?
Dryer's outside. But basically, we wash for the most part by hand.
Now we do.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way.
No, it wasn't always that way.
So when we started traveling in 2008, we had little kids, really little, in diapers, and it seems like there was more laundry back then because they were very messy.
Yeah, now when we have a teenager and one who's going to be a teenager next year, and one of their favorite part about living this way is not having to shower every day.
Or change their clothes.
So
it works out. But in the beginning, when we started traveling, we did laundry at campgrounds. We did, we stayed at campgrounds more.
Or laundromats.
Or laundromats. Different ways to pay also is when we started showering at truck stops, some of them also have laundry there. Laundry service. And that was
one of our favorite campgrounds early on. Was Bayou Signet Campground outside of New Orleans, because when we were there the first time back in 2010, I want to say, they had just renovated the entire campground loop, and there was a brand new laundry facility, brand new washer, brand new dryer. We were only like a couple of spaces down from it, and the best part about it was free.
Yeah,
they weren't charging anything for laundry. While laundromats would charge $2-3 per load, we were doing laundry at this state park, Louisiana State Park, for free. But we knew it was too good to be true, because when we went back there in 2012, it was much, much more run down, and there were clearly people doing laundry there who weren't staying at the campground.
Word got out.
Wasn't from us. So obviously, when you use laundry machines at laundromats or campgrounds, the quality of the machines will vary. And the cost will also vary. But generally speaking, you're paying about $2 to $3 per load, wash and dry. But when we came to Europe and in Mexico, and we downsized, all of that is now different. We don't have access as frequently to laundry machines anymore. I think we only did laundromats once in Europe.
In Norway.
In Finland. In Helsinki.
Right. And the nice thing about laundromats, I know people, like when they first start camping, they kind of think it's kind of gross, just like public showers. But you get used to it, and especially when you have little kids, you can do all your laundry, like 9 loads, in the time you do 1 load in a normal washer and dryer situation.
At home.
So you're not all day doing 9 loads of laundry all day. It's like, get it done in 2 hours.
Right,
or whatever.
Assuming that they're available. But they also have these big commercial machines that can do the equivalent of 3-4 loads. Cost you a little bit more. But you do get it done. You can do a crazy amount of laundry. So sometimes we'll go, when we had the space to carry a lot of clothes, we'll go like a month. Or sometimes more than a month without doing laundry, and then just end up with a huge bag of laundry, and then we can get it all done in an hour.
And we had a huge underwear closet, so we didn't last that long.
Right. But what we're doing now is completely different. Even though there are places with washers, you can find Airbnbs that have washers. It's pretty rare to find dryers in Europe for some reason. Even though the winter climates are much, much colder. Most people, they hang dry. They even sell these racks that you put in your bathroom where you hang your clothes, and that that plugs into the wall that have like, heat. That's a heated rack.
I think it's for towels, but when we like go to Airbnbs and they have that, we just hang our socks and all our clothes there and just keep moving it around.
Yeah, so we don't really have as good of a way to find laundromats now, but what we have been doing is just hand wash.
Yeah. So if we have, it all depends on the situation. If we have access to water and access a place to dump our gray water, soapy water, then that's what we'll choose. Every day or two, we'll just wash, our underwear, socks, if we change outfits, and also depending on the situation, if it's sunny or windy, then we can hang a line outside. So we'll hang it from tree to tree if that's available, or from our side mirror, or from our luminous ladder on the side. Or if we can't hang it, then we just put it on our ladder.
If we have a friend, we'll hang from our camper to their camper. And that's one thing that's accepted in European campgrounds that we've noticed is clotheslines.
Right. In the U.S., you get yelled at.
Yeah, especially private campgrounds. Yeah. Don't hang a clothesline at a private campground.
No, don't you dare.
They will ask you to leave. So that's what we've been doing. And also, we've tried a few different things. We have a collapsible bucket that we really like.
I always joke that this is my favorite thing in the van, but it's true.
We've said oftentimes that this is one of our favorite things that we own in the van. This collapsible bucket. This thing is so useful. You can use it to shuttle water. You can use it to wash dishes outside. You can use it to do laundry. We ripped a couple holes in the bottom, but we got Gorilla Tape holding it together still.
We actually have two.
Yeah, we were so concerned that if this one bit the dust, we're not going to have one. So we bought another one. Where is the other one?
We use it for dishes, so it's in the dish
area.
area.
That's right. We have a different one.
We're not animals. We have one for dishes and one for underwear. No.
Then we have this collapsible bucket, which is
more rigid,
slightly different. It's silicone and plastic. That works really well as well.
But this is good too if you're like at a sandy beach and kids are tracking sand in. You can put a little bit of water in here, and before they come into the van, just dip their feet and then come onto a towel, and it's awesome.
And notice the key about these collapsible. You got to make sure they're collapsible because you're not going to want to have to carry big, rigid buckets everywhere you go.
So I fill it with water, put some soap in, and then I do one soapy wash, and I do two rinses. And our littlest one, Luca, he loves helping. Like when they were super little, he would help me by just like
he's stomping grapes,
like Lucy style with the grapes. And so it's a family activity.
Yeah. So hand washing has become pretty big here, but obviously, if we can find laundromats, we'll use them. But like we were talking about in the showering video, we'll do Airbnbs. Sometimes we'll look for Airbnbs that have washer and dryers, even if it's just for day use. We'll just call them up and say, hey, we're traveling. We don't need to spend the night, but we want to do laundry and we want to shower. Can we just pay for one night and then be able to do that? And we won't even sleep there. Most of the time, they'll be totally willing to let you do that.
And sometimes friends will invite us over to their house, like people that want to meet us or people that we know. And we boondock in their driveway and they're like, you guys need anything? You want to sleep inside? We're like, no, this is our home. We're so comfortable. We'd rather actually sleep in our van. But if I can do laundry and take a shower, it'll be really awesome. And people are open to it. Right.
Basically, a lot of people travel like us understand that it's better to be in your own bed without having to bring all your stuff inside to sleep in their house. But like Marlene said, if we can use somebody's house like it's a campground shower, that is better than sleeping in a big comfy bed.
And other ways we wash clothes, in Mexico, we realize there's drop-off service. Like there's no public laundromats, but you take it to how do you say it in Spanish? I forgot.
Lavanderia?
Yeah. And they will wash and fold your clothes for cheaper than like a coin-op place.
Yeah.
It was a little weird in the beginning because they're folding your underwear and I just throw mine in the bag and it was just kind of personal. But It was really nice.
Well, because if you imagine, they're just sort of these mom and pop lavanderias, and they're not commercial. They don't have commercial washers and dryers that take coins. So it's not coin op. So even if you wanted to wash, they don't have a way to sort of charge you.
Yeah.
We've done this in Spain too. We went to a lavanderia in Spain where we dropped it off and then they washed it for us. So yeah, you pay by either the pound or the kilo. So how much your laundry weighs is what you end up paying. So, that's probably the most hands-off, the easiest way to do it, assuming that you're comfortable with somebody else handling your dirty laundry.
When we hand wash and the sun and the wind didn't do its job and we're scared not to have our stuff outside, we'll bring our wet clothes inside. And so sometimes there'll be clotheslines in the front, or when we had the Airstream, we had a lot more space to hang, and you just kind of
turn the heater on and have the fan circulate the air. It will dry eventually.
Yeah.
Not ideal, but in a pinch,
yeah,
you figure out what you have to do.
Yeah, you do what you gotta do.
When we downsized from our Airstream back in 2015, we made the conscious decision to not have a dedicated bathroom in our camper.
It was going to take too much space, and we needed to make sleeping a priority.
And living.
Yeah. There's no space for that. A big shower room or a separate toilet space.
Essentially what we decided is that if you don't spend that much time using any given thing and there's other ways to sort of solve the problem, we're going to choose the way that is more space efficient. So what we did, instead of having a dedicated toilet, is to have a cassette toilet, a portable cassette toilet. And there's a lot of people that have had negative experiences with cassette toilets, and I can totally understand that. If you don't use it properly, it can smell. If you have an accident while you're emptying it, it could get everywhere. It's happened to the best of us, but there are definitely ways to be able to handle this without having these kinds of bad experiences, bad situations. And we'll tell you guys sort of, the different things that we've sort of discovered and how we use our portable cassette toilet. And obviously, for those of you that have chosen to go with a composting toilet, that's also a good way to go. For us, composting toilets, they take up a little bit more space. And also, they're a bit more complicated in that you have to have the bedding, and then the covering that you have to store separately. Even though they don't really take up that much space, but also for the most part, they need to be ventilated outside, which means you have to drill holes and install fans and stuff like that. So a cassette toilet seems to work for us, and we've been using cassette toilets for the last 6 years now.
So we actually have a Dometic portable toilet that holds 5 gallons of black water. And we store it underneath our fridge, which is behind me. We actually have 2 toilets. We used to travel with our cat Yoda, and we built this box underneath our fridge. One side's our portable toilet, and the other side was her litter box. And when she passed away in 2018, we had an empty space. So what do we do with the empty space? Well, we didn't want to store food or anything next to our toilet, so we got a second toilet.
So now we have 10 gallons of capacity, which is great for those extended boondocking periods when if we're staying at a place for more than a week. Our 5-gallon cassette toilet generally will only last, I would say, like 3-4 days between 5 people.
Yeah. Depending on if you can go pee outside or not.
And also depending on how well you can tell your kids to not waste water when they're flushing.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors. So our kids are also used to it. To us, one of the biggest gripes that people have about this is that they think that it smells. And it can smell for sure. And you also people think that you have to use chemicals in it. Which the chemicals are really a way to kind of control the smell, so it doesn't smell as bad, but you don't have to use chemicals. If you maintain your cassette toilet, it's well sealed and odors don't get out. The only time when it does smell is when somebody's actually using it and when somebody's flushing or if somebody forgets to close the lid.
Right.
It could just be that a certain part of our noses have become nose blind to the smell. But we've asked other people, and they say it doesn't smell. And we don't use any kind of chemicals in ours. We just use water. The only thing that goes in is human waste, water, and toilet paper.
Sometimes soap or vinegar to clean it too, which we'll get into.
Yeah, right. But on a regular basis, no, just those things. So essentially, a cassette toilet, how it works is just a bowl, and it has a valve that opens and closes in the bottom. And they're in two parts. There's a top, and then there's a bottom. The bottom is the cassette, and the top is the actual toilet part. You can buy different sizes. Ours has a 5-gallon tank. They have a smaller and shorter one that's 2.5 gallons. The top part's exactly the same. The bottom is bigger. And if you wanted to, you can buy multiple cassettes that go on the bottom and store that somewhere else if you want. For us, we just have two completely separate toilets. That seems to be easier for us is because the bottom part, when you detach it, if it's full, it can be a little bit tricky to store. Also, ours is the portable cassette toilet, unlike the ones that are installed into a camper where you can access it from a door that you cut on the outside. So for us, we can move our cassette toilet wherever we want. So if we have the ability to set up an outdoor toilet with like a shower tent, we can move it outside as well if we wanted to do that. But for the most part, we use it inside. We just put it right here on the floor in between the front seat and the bed. And if people want privacy, they can just ask everybody to wait outside while they go. Or if we're laying in the bed and somebody has to get up and go use the bathroom in the middle of the night, generally speaking, they have pretty good privacy.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we carry a cassette toilet is we have kids and they're getting older and when they were much littler, they have a difficult time, going outside to go pee at night. So in order for you to not have to deal with having your kids go outside in the dark in the middle of the night when they have to go pee, having something for them to go is a must.
Or your wife who's scared of the dark.
Yeah. I know that there are people who live in vans that don't have any kind of toilets at all.
That's not us.
No, but what we are doing though is we are trying to separate our waste, our solids, and our liquids, because by doing that, you're going to be able to extend the number of days that one cassette tank will last.
And that's really important for us to boondock and wild camp for as long as we can. Our toilet's a limiting factor, and sometimes water is, and trash really too. So if we can, it just depends on.
Find all different tricks and hacks to be able to extend those three different things. How much waste you produce. If you can minimize that, then you don't have to carry a bunch of bags of trash around or have to go dump it somewhere. Limit the amount of water you use, and also trying to limit how much waste you put into your cassette toilet. But you want to keep in mind, though, in order for the cassette toilet to work well, there has to be a reasonable amount of liquids in it. It can't be just solids, because if you put just solids in there, you're not going to be able to empty it out.
Well, you flush with water.
Yeah, so you have to make sure that you put at least enough water.
You're going to have like a poop pyramid.
Yeah, pyramiding is a thing. You can actually, for people that have black tanks in their campers, and if you don't let liquids go in there, you're not going to have the material inside the tank be liquid enough to flush out. So the same can go for a cassette toilet. But generally speaking, though, there is a lot more liquid than you need in a cassette. So by using pee bottles and pee buckets and stuff like that, and then dumping those outside, you're going to be able to extend how long one single 5-gallon cassette will last for us. So as I mentioned earlier, we don't use any of the chemicals that you can generally pour into your cassette to make the smell a little bit better. Because for us, if it's well maintained, it doesn't really smell. So since we don't put any chemicals in our cassette toilet, the only thing that goes in is our bodily waste, water, and toilet paper. We can empty our chemical toilet. It's called the chemical toilet, even though ours doesn't use any chemicals, because we chose not to. it can be emptied anywhere. A lot of people will say, oh, no, you can't dump that in here because there's chemicals inside, especially if they're using like a septic system where they don't want chemicals in their septic tank. For that reason, by not using chemicals, it gives us more options to be able to empty our cassette toilet in more places.
And to put chemicals in your toilet, you need to start off with some water in your black tank. And if we add water to our black tank, then it takes away of how long we can last. So we decided that's another big reason why we don't do it either.
It can be expensive too, so you have to keep buying these bottles of chemical, either use the liquids or the powder or the tablets. It's because some of these dry powders or tablets need to be dissolved into water, and that's why you're going to have to pre-fill your tank. Yeah, like Marlene said, you could lose as much as a quarter or a third of your capacity if you're using chemicals on a regular basis. Using these chemicals is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to deal with having to deal with a cassette toilet. But cassette toilets are by and large the most popular ways campers have toilets in Europe. And frankly, most of other countries besides North America. So one of the things that you'll come across is people have asked us about whether or not they should bring their camper from the U.S. to Europe if they want to travel in Europe. One of the things that we make sure we mention is that be aware that you may not have places to empty your black tank as easily as you would in the U.S. So having a cassette toilet meant that it gave us more options. We can still empty our cassette toilet at a regular dump station, but on top of that, we have porta potties, public restrooms, highway rest stops, and all these different places that we've emptied cassette toilets before. And driving through Greece, even when we're driving through the northern part of Greece, at all the rest stops, they'll have just a separate area in the back of the rest stop restrooms that people use to empty their cassette toilets. One thing that you have to keep in mind if you're using your chemical cassette toilet long term is that they do require maintenance. And this maintenance is not a glamorous job.
No.
You have to clean them, obviously. So from time to time, you're going to want to rinse them out really good and empty out a couple of times to make sure that you don't have any crud that's kind of stuck on the side. And also, I would say maybe a month or 2 months, you're going to want to clean all the dried stuff that's sort of, on the edges. Because by not cleaning out the stuff that's kind of built up, that could be like calcium, mineral buildup from the water, from hard water or whatever. Those could be the reasons why your cassette toilet smells. Because that's preventing the silicone valve from sealing properly. And if you leave it for too long and you build up too much and then you clean off the buildup, those silicone valves could have deformed to the point that it will start to smell again. So you want to make sure you do this on a regular basis.
Or start to leak.
Yeah, because the top and the bottom has to form a seal. Otherwise, if you put water or any kind of liquid in the bowl, it's going to leak around the side and drip down the side. And you don't want that.
No.
So generally, we will try to clean ours every month or 2 months, and we'll use things like vinegar to try to help dissolve the hard minerals. And then once we do that, and what you want to do is you want to lubricate the silicone seal. And you do that by just globbing a bit of Vaseline and kind of smearing petroleum jelly to smear around the seal. So by smearing petroleum jelly on your seal, that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to prevent it from drying out. And also, if there's any leak around that seal, the petroleum jelly will also prevent that from happening.
And there's a secondary seal on the valve where you pull to flush. There's also a silicone thing there.
Yeah, do the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you guys the exactly make and model of the toilet that we use in the description below. So if you happen to use the same one, you can follow these directions for, I wouldn't call it a hassle-free experience, but a better than normal cassette toilet experience. At the end of the day, everything is a give and take. For us to not have a dedicated toilet means we have more space for the 99% of the time when we're not using the toilet. But for that small part of our day that we have to use the toilet, we know that we can go. We don't have to go find a public restroom or dig a hole in the forest. In the middle of the night, if we have to go, we know we're covered.
Yeah. It makes life in here more comfortable.
so these are a lot of the questions that we've been asked over and over again by people who are either reading our blog, listening to our other podcast episodes, watching our Instagram stories, or watching our YouTube channels. And also, if you're a supporter on Patreon, you can ask us questions through there as well. And as a supporter, you'll get priority into us answering your questions first. In 2021, we are already a month into it, and it doesn't look like the travel restrictions are going to lift anytime soon. I suspect that we're going to be in Croatia for at least another month or maybe 2 months. But what's nice is that the weather is warming up.
You're really optimistic. Another month or two? I got a little sad this week thinking that we won't be till after summer.
Well, I'm really just hoping that the weather warms up a little bit and we can at least do some traveling within the country. So last year was the only year that we were in Croatia between April when we came back and the beginning of summer, which is the start of the high season. And it was kind of nice to be here during the shoulder season and not in the cold. And I feel like that the temperature is starting to warm up. And in fact, this week we're seeing some spring blossoms on the plants around here. And
bugs and birds are back.
Yeah, it seemed like they all came back on the same day.
Luca got a mosquito bite on his forehead while we had the heater on. I'm like, what's happening?
So we're hoping that before we start to travel around Europe again, before the lockdown ends. Right now, as you guys may experience in your country as well, there are some issues with the supply of the vaccine. Not just the distribution, but also just having enough of them to go around. So, whether you want to be optimistic like me or you want to be pessimistic like Marlene, I feel like that there'll be places that we can go and still be safe in Croatia, just like we did back in October, at least before it gets busy. So we can at least leave the village and travel around Croatia for a little bit once it starts to warm up. And maybe go to some of the places that we've been wanting to go and just haven't been.
Right. There's more national parks we haven't hit up.
Yeah.
And islands.
Yeah. We wanted to go to Korčula last October and we didn't make it. So maybe that's where we'll go. So hopefully we'll be back on the road sooner than later. But you just never know. You just never know what can happen. Croatia is a small country, and there's only about 4.5 million people. And because it's part of the European Union, it has to follow the distribution of all the vaccines across the European Union. So we're getting very, very small quantities of vaccines as they're distributed. I think there's only been in the tens of thousands of units so far, doses-wise.
Yeah, I think the second dose, only 10 or 15,000 people got it.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while. But, we're happy and we're glad to be in the village, to have access to a safe place. And we'll just take advantage of it while we still can. We are trying to make the most of it. The kids are, just doing school in the house, and we're continuing to create content for you guys, like this podcast. I want to thank you guys for listening to our podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is episode 18.
Yeah, 18.
So we're going to probably come back by the end of this month and bring you guys another episode.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic.
Very.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.